the Tuesday, February 25th, 2025 school committee meeting to order. Would you all join me and rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd ask that you all remain standing, just because I'm going to ask that you all take a moment of silence and prayer on behalf of Joel Sugarman. So Joel was an icon in this town. I would say he was an incredible steward of this town. He served on this committee from 1993 to 2005 when it was part of the Silver Lake Committee, and he was one of the founding fathers of the Pembroke school system. He helped us break away from the Silver Lake system, and Joel very unexpectedly passed away this weekend. It was a shock to many of us who really cared about him, and if you knew Joel or you were a friend of his, when you would walk up to him, Joel would smile and the room lit up. That guy had a smile brighter than the sun, and he is going to be missed dearly. I'm pleased and privileged to have been able to call him a friend for the last 20 years. So for him and for his family, I just ask that you take a moment of silence and or if you see fit, prayer. Thank you. Amen. Thank you. I did collect, there are agendas over there if anybody needs them. I did collect the sign-in sheet. There was no sign-in request for public comment. I do appreciate seeing again the number of people in the audience. I think it's important as we go through the budget and understanding where we are and what the numbers are both for this year as well as, more importantly, for fiscal year 26. Any adjustments to the agenda? Under communications, we do have a citizens override petition that was passed. I do just need to say the committee did not have anything to do with the petition. So my understanding is the petition was put forward after a budget meeting that was held by the town manager, and it is exactly the difference between what level of service was versus what the town manager had is a reduction in order to get to a balanced budget. I do not know what's going to happen with that override, but neither this committee nor my understanding is town hall, nor the police, nor the fire really had input into that. I do think it was something that there was a timeline here. The warrant was closing. You had a group of people that were trying to do the right thing. I think their heart was in the right place. I don't ultimately know what will come of the petition, but I just did want everyone to be aware that there was a citizens petition filed, and it was outside of both the committee as well as the various folks listed in town government. Did you want to say anything? The other thing, although it's not listed in communication, I also want to give a massive shout out, and it's good news, right? We need to celebrate wins right now. And I think celebrating is a really good thing, especially right now. The boys indoor track team took the division, I think it's 4 state championships, and the girls track team took second place in the Division 4 state championships. A lot of kids worked really hard, pushed really hard, and they really should be commended and acknowledged. If you see them around town, please high five them and let them know what a great job they did.
Are we going to be able to have them?
Yeah, you couldn't make it tonight, but Brian is working with the coaches to have them come to the great.
Bills are circulating for approval and payments. So we do have school committee meeting minutes of January 21st, 2025 and February 4th, 2025. I'll entertain a motion to accept and approve the January 21st and February 4th, 2025 minutes as presented.
So moved.
Second.
So motion by Katrina, seconded by Sue. Is there?
Did we both do it? Oh, sorry, I didn't
So
hear
that's good. So I know I'm having brain farts in the middle of meetings because I'm getting old. It wasn't that bad. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? It's unanimous now. And we'll go to the superintendent's report.
Sure. So under my report tonight, we're going to continue with the FY26 budget presentations. Tonight we have visual and performing arts with Ms. Chapman and technology with Mr. Tinker. As we've said with each of the presentations, this is an opportunity for whether it's the building administrator or the department head to talk about the goals for the department, the achievements in the department, and what it would take to really take their work to the next step. These budgets are created in a silo, so some of it may feel like a wish list, but it's important for us to talk about the things that as individual departments we recognize would be nice additions to our budgets, understanding that at the end of the day there is just one budget, and that the administration and the school committee will work together to put forth the budget that makes the most sense for the upcoming year for both students and staff. I believe Wayne is first.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
It is my great pleasure to talk about all things art and music. Our first slide up here, I just want to point out that the top pictures are part of our Brave Spaces posters you may see around town. That was spearheaded by our digital arts teacher, Jessica Lazarus. And we have our own student representative down there portraying the role of Willard in our recent production of Footloose. Today on the agenda, I'm going to be going over the visual performing arts goals, the celebrating of many accomplishments, our current staffing, our maintenance of effort budget, and what our next steps are going to look like. So our ongoing goals and goal work, our overarching goal in the visual performing arts is to always provide for students the most amazing art and music related performances and juried art shows that we can possibly put in front of them. So we have numerous community performances, concerts, juried art shows that celebrate all the creativity and the achievements and the talents of our students K to 12. Our visual arts teachers this year, as part of their professional practice goal, have also put in line with our district goal to create some different connections in the community for a place to be able to showcase student artwork. So they've been hard at work using professional development time. They've reached out to the community center and also the Pembroke Library. They have started an installation already, and we're going to continue with that. But it's just been a wonderful way to reach out to our community, to have places to be able to showcase the amazing work of our artists. As far as our pathways go, you know, we're in the first year of the music pathway and the third year of the digital arts pathway. We continue to thank the community and the businesses that come forward to provide internships for our digital art students, and they have the option to get a certification in Adobe Photoshop or Illustrator, which can help them certainly as they go on to secondary college or right out into the workforce. And we are continuing to find ways to expand our department and to get that information in front of 8th graders. I did, thanks to Donna McGarrigle, I had the wonderful opportunity to present to the entire 8th grade today about just music and art. And with the help of the wonderful Mrs. Tinker, we created a new landing page. So I did create a link there that you may not have, but on the Visual and Arts district website, there is now on the left-hand side a little landing spot for students that are transitioning specifically from 8th grade to 9th grade at PHS. There's a whole Google slide presentation and also an incredible video that is testimonials from current students and also some of our alumni that are out in the performing arts doing just amazing things they never probably could have imagined when they were here at PHS. So I think that was a really powerful video, and I have to give a shout out to past alumni Matt Krecky, who is a video social media content creator in his job, and he volunteered to come and to help us put that all together. So he was at numerous plays and performances and came and took some B-roll in the halls and during student classes. So Matt was really instrumental in helping us get that off the ground.
That's fantastic.
And I think it was really well received. As far as professional development go, the district was very generous last year in allocating at the end of the year our subscription to an online professional development specifically for our K-12 art teachers. You can imagine sometimes it's hard to find that targeted professional development that we can offer our staff during the day. And this is a plethora. There's 214 what they call pro packs. Each pro pack is a certain topic about teaching specifically art. It could be advanced approaches to still lifes or studio habits of mind in the elementary classroom. Each ProPrac has 3 components. They have a certain number of required professional development hours. They have a wealth of videos, anywhere between 14 and 22 videos in that particular ProPack, and then a whole list of resources. And the teachers kind of go through a checklist as they go through the ProPack and take like little tests and quizzes. And as they finish the ProPack, it gives them a certificate of completion for those professional development hours. So the teachers have a chance to target, specifically pick a certain topic that they're interested in working on. And I know the feedback from the staff has been tremendous on it. So we will continue that again next year with the art teachers. And I've talked to the company. They are in development for music and dance and theater as well, because the response for that targeted professional development for teachers in the arts has been just tremendous from the company. But they've been wonderful to work with. And they had a whole like onboarding training session for us in the fall where the people came on and showed us how to use all the website. It's just been a tremendous resource for our teachers. And the music staff has been working with teachers out of district in our surrounding areas. So Marshfield High School in November, for our November Day, they hosted area Cape Cod and South Shore music teachers specifically to get together to talk about what are the challenges you're facing, what are the curriculum, what are you doing that's helping recruiting, because everybody is seeing those post-pandemic numbers that haven't come quite all the way back. So it's a really wonderful way to engage in professional development with other music educators, and they've also been out to other schools to observe what's happening, because sometimes you feel like you're kind of in a pocket when you're the only person in your building teaching what you're teaching. So that's been super important. Accomplishments are many, and I just did some highlights here. I mean, I could do pages and pages. I have the most amazing art and music faculty that really I feel just go above and beyond to give our students just exceptional opportunities. So I'm happy to report that 9 of 11 of our AP studio art students earned a qualifying score last year. We have PHS artists that exhibit work in the Boston Globe Scholastic Art Show, the Emerging Young Artist Show at UMass Dartmouth, the Congressional Keating Juried Art Show, and the Scholastic Art and Writing Awards. And Jessica Lazarus shared this morning that we had about 8 students recognized. They put work into the new state, teaching state organization, the Mass Art Educators Show, and we had 8 students work selected for that too, which is amazing. We have 22 students currently enrolled in the digital arts pathway, and there are 9 students in the very first music pathway. This is something new. So again, the teachers are reaching beyond just the Pembroke community, and one of our high school art students teachers knew of this high art installation exhibit that was happening with the Attleboro Art Museum, and she got Pembroke High School involved, and we were one of the 9 schools selected. So they're working on a very large, Mr. Talbot's been great about giving us some extra space so the art club and the classes can work specifically on this large mural, and there's going to be an installation and an exhibit May 13th through the 29th of 2025.
That's
so
amazing. That's awesome.
It's
That's
just
so awesome.
incredible.
Gwen, it's all student work?
It's all student work.
Yeah,
All
that's
student work.
fantastic.
Wow.
And just to highlight some other students, this was the work that was accepted to the Scholastic Art Awards this year. We're really proud of those 4 students. It's very competitive to get your work chosen. And in the music department, even though we have a drop in enrollment, we still tend to be quite a presence at our local music festivals. We had 10 students accepted to the Senior District Music Festival, 7 students accepted to the Junior District Music Festival. So the district has about 90 middle schools and high schools that participate, that are all sending students to audition. We had 2 students, this is the 20th year in a row, that we had students accepted to the Mass All-State Chorus. So I'm just really pleased about that. That is very difficult to get into. It's really a testament of such their hard work. And we had 25 students accepted into our SEMSPA festivals. So it's pretty awesome. And there's our picture of our marching band from this year. We continue, again, to have so many performances outside of Pembroke. Fenway Park, Gillette Stadium, TD Garden in the Celtics, Boston College, really spearheaded by Mr. Hawes at the elementary level. The Derby Shots performances at JFK Library, taking our students 7 through 12 to the Music in the Parks competition. We have the picture above is our middle school and elementary school choruses performing at Providence Bruins. And we've taken students to New England Village to sing and to play, as well as we're headed to New York City to the Heritage Music Festival, April 3rd through the 6th. So we're very excited about that. And just locally in the school, we have a number of concerts. It's about 30 concerts a year or so, and we offer musicals and plays, and we sing at the tree lighting, and we sing at the Veterans Day and provide marching band in the Memorial Day Parade, again, our music festivals. And for the 5th time in a row, we've been nominated and recognized as the best communities in music education by the NOM Foundation for 2024.
Woohoo!
So our current staffing has held the same. We're at 14.2. So in each of our elementary school, we have 1 full-time visual art and 1 full-time music teacher. At PCMS, we have 1 full-time visual art, 1 full-time music teacher, and then Mr. Tarbucks and I are kind of a .1 and a .1, and together, I do the chorus and he does the orchestra. So we're over there a couple of times a week. And at the high school, we have 3 full-time visual art teachers and 1.8 music teachers. So that's 1 full-time music teacher and then a .4 and a .4. And then we have a 1.2 transient traveling music teachers. We have a band teacher that is full-time that goes to every single elementary school every day. And we have a string teacher, .2, who does 1 day a week at each element. So he does 1 day and does 2 classes in each elementary school on that 1 day. So 14.2 current.
And Gwen, this may sound like a dumb question, but I'm asking anyway. The music teachers are both vocal and instrumental, is that right?
They can be, yep. They're certified for vocal, general music, string. Although in the high school, it's kind of like science, you know,
Right.
physics, biology,
Right.
chemistry. You have your area of real expertise, but all of us can teach everything.
But the 1.8 includes both.
It does,
Yeah,
string,
that's what I
chorus,
understood.
band, and
Yeah.
our non-performing classes.
Yeah, okay,
That's
great.
correct.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So but the string is separated out. Oh, no, never mind. I had that wrong. You have all 3.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah.
Our elementary instrumental enrollment continues to hold strong, even though we've seen a little dip in the school population. This year, currently, we have 179 grade 5 and 6, that's band and string combined, taking an instrument. So we're really happy with that number.
Can
We-
I ask a question
Yeah.
on the enrollment? And maybe I shouldn't have been surprised, but I am. When I look at the 5th to 6th grade, 22 to 23, and then 23, 24 to 24, 25, something's going on at Bryanville that's great, because everything's holding, right? But when I look at the cohort going through, we're dropping a lot of kids between 5th and 6th grade. Do we know why?
It usually is a couple of things. It could be that the student's just not interested.
Yeah,
They've tried
okay.
it for a year.
Yeah.
You know, and in 5th grade, we're the only game in town,
Yeah.
right? We're the only thing kind of going on. So we tend to have the most signups in the 5th grade, and then they try it for a year and they
It's just
decide
not my
that it's
thing.
not their thing. We've also seen kind of friend groups. So my friend decided they're not going to do it, and so we see a little bit of attrition that way. It's hard to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can they switch instruments between 5th and 6th?
They
grade?
can. It's a little bit more challenging, but we have accommodated to let that happen. When students start an instrument, they're just not happy with it. In 6th grade, we try to get them caught up as fast as we can because, of course, they're now in a class where students have been playing for a year. So that makes it a little bit more challenging, but we have done that on occasion where someone's, switched from violin and they decide they want to play the saxophone or
Do you
vice versa.
do you happen to have the numbers broken up between band and orchestra for like 5th and 6th graders?
I do. I could send that to you.
Yeah,
don't
I was just
know it
kinda
off the
curious,
top of my
like,
head. Yeah, the string number's about 20 total.
Total in the
Total.
elementary, all 3
Grade 5 and 6.
combined?
Yeah, it's like 20, 24 around there. But I don't want to misquote, so I could send that to you.
And why do you think that is? Do you think that, like, is it a matter of picking an instrument on instrument night, or like, is it?
Traditionally, in any school system, string numbers are lower than band. It's not shiny, right?
Yeah.
It's a lot more difficult to play. As a beginning violinist in 3rd grade, I can tell you it's a lot more challenging to play a string instrument. It's the fine motor. You don't have a button that you press and you get that note. It's all by ear. You know, there isn't a place to.
Right.
You have to. There's a lot more involved in the string instrument, and
Sure.
I think it takes a certain student that's like, yeah, I'm in love with that sound, and I really want to go that route. But strings are generally not as popular as band.
It's
Yeah.
also just a
It's
little less
hard to say.
like well known. I feel like when they go through the instruments, because I played the clarinet at 5th and 6th grade, and then I switched over to chorus. Well, while I was doing choir the entire time, but when they go through them, like at World Tour, and you hear the saxophone and the drums and the clarinet and all the instruments that you already know exist, and then it's the viola and the standing bass. It's not exactly
Yeah, right. That's
Good point.
Yeah.
about the same.
But there could be a pianist maybe that comes in and.
We don't do that one.
But I can send you those numbers.
Yeah, I'm just
for
curious,
sure.
like, you know.
Yeah, it's usually, it's lower,
Yeah.
for sure. I think there's around 150 band students, if I'm thinking off the top of my head.
Okay, all right.
Mhm.
Thanks.
Is there any other question about it? Okay. Here is the current class enrollment at the middle school and the high school. So 80% of the students at the middle school are involved in the arts, take the art program, and 60% take music. There is some crossover there. We do have students that are, might take a general music class and an art class as well. At the high school, for our 3 full-time art teachers, we have 35% taking our art classes, and at the music department, again, with the 1.8 teachers, 1.8, we have 16%. We have seen those numbers go down. It's a little concerning to me that the numbers aren't larger, but it's attributed to more choice at the high school, and the pathways certainly has put a constraint on the schedule. I'm really hoping, and thank you to the committee for voting for the VPA graduation requirement that will be starting with our incoming 9th grade class next year, to do at least 0.2 semester class. We obviously, it's our world, but we believe the arts are really important and make a student think creatively and in a different way than some of their other classes do. In the collaboration that happens, and no one sits on the bench in our classes for sure. So I would like to see that number come up, and I'm hoping that between adding it as a graduation requirement, but also with our performing classes, allowing students to take it for that 1 semester and the full year opportunity will encourage students that may have a little bit more constraint in their schedule to be able to fit that in. And we'll see those numbers come up. Also, we're going to be running, talking about it later, but while we're on enrollment, we've created a rock band semester class and music technology that we're super excited about, which captures students that may not be interested in a performing ensemble, but have a band going, are composing on their computers at home. That we have students that are composers, so this is going to give them an avenue, and I hope that we can capture those students so we can see an increase in our enrollment as well.
So I guess, Gwen, part of why I was asking about the elementary, right, is that's your feeder, right? That's what's feeding into
It's
the
our
system.
roots. Yep.
And if that's on a decline, we can pretty much say in 3-4 years, kind of where are we going to be? I do think, to your point, right, thinking differently, right, which is what we talked about several months ago here, right? Because it's not I don't think it's not about competing. It's about just thinking differently and making as much opportunity available. And then kids are going to say, hey, I'm going to move forward here, or I'm going to move forward there, what have you. Have you guys thought about other ways to structure things, whether it be after school types of things, or just other ways to make those opportunities available to kind of hook them? Because the one thing I learned about 6 years ago is when you guys get a kid, you get them, right? Like they're all
For
in,
the most
right?
part,
They're
yes.
there, right? I mean, they're there. So I guess my question is, what else can be done? Like, how do we open up the after-school times, or how do we open up? We've kind of pushed the limited study hall time to make sure kids are taking these classes and what have you. We made the graduation requirement. what else can be done, though, to expose kids? Because to your point, strong art and music program, strong math and science program,
Without
right?
a doubt.
Like there's those
Correlation.
correlations have been there forever.
Mhm.
So what else can we do?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's one that we grapple with all the time. Rock band and music technology are coming out of what students are telling us that
Right.
they're interested in. So you have to go where they're going to be interested in taking that class. You know, maybe there's less interest in piano and guitar, and it's kind of had its time, you know what I mean? It's like we did Pembroke Idol for 10 years, and then there was no one interested in audition. You know, you have to change what you're doing. After school is tricky because transportation becomes an issue.
Yeah.
Students go, especially the high school, they go to sports, they go to work, they're
Yeah.
taking care of younger
Yeah.
siblings. So we do run after school groups, you know. That's tricky, but we've talked about, we talked to Mark and Donna and got their approval. We're going to be thinking about opening up marching band to 8th graders next year. We've done color guard this year with 7th and 8th graders. It's been very successful at capturing some of those students. So, you know, why not offer that to 8th graders? It's 1 week in the summer and the Friday night games. You know, so there's no reason why if they learn everything at band camp that we can't think about that as a way to capture. We specifically picked Seussical, which your girls were in, I remember.
It's all coming full circle now. It's a
Yeah, we
little
have not
frightening.
done a musical with our younger kids since pre-COVID.
They loved
Music
it.
Band was the last
Yeah.
one, and it is such a way for me as the high school teacher and the middle school
Yep.
to build relationships, for them to know what we're all about. They meet the older students, they're on the big high school stage. Ryan's nodding his head.
I was just gonna say, yeah.
But those kind of things help our department because we're building relationships all the way through K to 12, and it helps to pique their interest, and we can kind of say, hey, you should do chorus, you know. And so we do have, you know, plans that way. So those are the things that we're looking at to help, because the after-school part is just, it's tricky. It's tricky.
One of the things I heard Ryan say too was just the exposure, right? Like seeing kids playing these other instruments. And so I think kind of building on what he said, having those opportunities where younger kids can see our older students and what they do. Obviously we have some of those happening already,
We
but
do.
building that out. Yeah.
Exactly.
One thing I want to mention, so the district that my family moved from in Virginia did strings only in 4th grade. So the only opportunity you had was strings, and then in 5th grade you either went to advanced strings or started band.
So
which I know is
back in 2005 and 6, we had a 4th grade.
I
string
knew you were going to
choir.
say that.
And it became instructionally difficult at that point. We had pullouts and.
Yeah, so the way they did it as part of their, so
Yeah.
they took the classes, like, you know, there were 4th grade classes, that, you know, they would bunch them together based on, like, what they were
Right.
in, and so, like, the classes were mixed together when they went to PE, art, strings, whatever,
Right.
but it was a different format.
So the way we handle that, because strings are that much more difficult, that we do a 4th grade unit in the general music classroom where we have a set of classroom instruments where the students can get exposure.
Yeah.
We actually have someone who teaches here at North that happens to be a violinist, so that certainly helps it well. But we try to give kids that exposure and a chance to hold it and see what it's all about and what does it sound like when it's up to my ear. And like I said, it you know, I fell in love with strings, right? I knew it was kind of like singing, you know, on the bow. But yeah, so we try to give them that experience through the general music class.
I do think, I mean, just hearing today that you were at the middle school, right, all day and sort of introducing it, I think, you know, sort of all those discussions earlier this year brought some of those things to light, right? Like, this is important. I mean,
That's right.
I hate to say it, but you got to sell it, right?
You
At
do.
the end of the day, you
We
got
are
to
an
sell it, right?
all-elective
You're
program.
just 100%, right?
That's right.
It's about selling the program ultimately to kids, but I do want to make sure, just for the record, that it's well understood, and with you here, we've known each other for a very long time. This committee, no different than the committees of the past couple of decades, is avidly committed to the fine arts and the music program. We completely understand the creative outlet as well as the benefits in other academic areas and what have you. You know, enrollment's declining across the Commonwealth, right? This is not a Pembroke-only events, right? This is not a Pembroke-only issue. This is a Commonwealth-wide issue, but we are very much committed to the program. We just got to find out the right way to make the program work, as you said today, right?
Yep, absolutely, and thank you, and we do thank you so much for your support through all the years. So that brings me to our current budget.
I was going to say, I set you up for money perfectly.
You did. So being as fiscally responsible as my department is, we try to spend every dollar as effectively as we can. This is slightly less than what I've asked for. I know, eyebrows raised. It is partly because we front-loaded that Art of Education subscription that we paid for last year for 2 years, so I didn't quite need all of that because we had that going for another year. But you can just see, looking at this, the bulk of what we asked for is in the instructional supplies and materials. That's for our classroom. It's completely consumable. Once we use it, it's used up, we have to buy it again. So there's kind of the breakdown, and this is the pretty picture.
Where are instruments?
Instruments are under equipment.
They are, okay.
They are under equipment. That is a non-consumable, right? And we have a number of school-owned instruments, so under contracted services, we work with an instrument company that will come and do maintenance on our instruments and, tune the Steinway and things like that to keep. And years ago, we went to digital piano, so we have a digital piano in all of our classrooms. It very much cuts down on the tuning and the maintenance that's needed for an instrument that fluctuates so much in heat and cold, that the digital instruments are really reliable and they're always in tune, which is super, super important.
So after 18 years, this time we're still doing okay?
I have to actually tell you that.
Oh, God, please don't.
No, it's a good thing. Wei Min Wang, who is one of our amazing accompanists, right, who's a Taiwanese prodigy, she comes and she says this is one of the best pianos that she plays on, and she
nice.
plays all over the place. Yeah, we really do maintain it. We have a good humidifier system, and it's tuned regularly, but it is just an amazing instrument. It was
And a
an
good
incredible investment.
I was-
18, 20 years later, it has totally held up.
So to be clear, it was my first vote on this committee, was that
heard all
For the
piano.
Steinway.
I heard a lot about it.
Yeah,
but
and if you pick quality, it lasts.
Well,
It does last.
The
Yeah.
ROI was there for that reason. I
Yeah.
would agree with you.
And thank you for taking such good care of it as well.
Yes, we do. We absolutely take great care of it. Oh, so next steps. Again, ongoing recruitment efforts to help bolster enrollment. And so those are all the things we've already talked about. Expanding the marching band to 8th graders next year, see what that will do. Continue to explore and connect to the broader Pembroke arts community. Again, our art staff has been amazing at reaching out and finding opportunities and making connections with people in Pembroke, but also in the greater community to help exhibit student artwork. And we're really excited to offer the 2 new semester courses starting in the fall, rock band and music technology, and we hope we get some feet to sign up for those classes. So.
And are we, we're doing course as a class rather than at Titan Time?
So when you see the program of studies for the middle school, we'll discuss the offerings there.
Oh, okay,
And
right.
The plan is to transition back to chorus.
Chorus during the day.
Yeah,
So
okay, which is
th-
much better because
That will
Titan
really
Time.
help as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It helps the feeder system.
without a doubt.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
Excellent.
Are there grants out there that we could be
Yep, and we
kinda-
regularly apply for them. We don't always get them, but we do regularly apply for them. There are a number of organizations, Kate's Voice, Music Drive Us, there's quite a few
Okay.
that we try to.
Great.
Yep, work on supplementing. Any other questions?
Thank you for all you do. Congratulations on another award. The,
Thank you.
What is it, the
The best communities?
Yes,
Yeah, the
that's
NOM award.
amazing.
Thank you. Thank
So,
you very much.
and the musical this year was amazing, and, just a lot of great accomplishment. These kids are amazing, so.
Yeah, it's really a shout out to our whole team.
Good
though.
job.
Yeah, and the students are amazing, and the teachers are amazing.
Yeah,
They really,
absolutely.
they just give so much of themselves every day.
Any other questions or comments for Glenn?
Actually, one thing.
Yeah.
I know you mentioned after-school activities and
Yeah.
how it was not a competition, but also since we had such a strong math and science program. From personal experience, I mean, I've taken a science class and obviously math for all 4 years. I've been
We
in
require
choir.
that, Ron.
Well, not science, but math, yes. I've also been in choir for 3 years. I've been in drama for it is definitely possible, even in extracurriculars. I mean, I do a sport, I work, and I still have made time in my schedule to be in as many music groups as I can and take advantage of as many things as I can. And it definitely is possible, like from a student perspective.
Ryan, when you are out of school, I'm going to hire you. Just to be really clear, I want you to come see me. I'm hiring you. That's unbelievable that you've been able to make it work. But no, I think it's good to know. You know, it might be harder, but it's doable. Yeah, that's good to know. Thank you. Awesome. Thank you, Gwen.
Thank you all for your continued support. Thank you.
Next up is Mike Tinker. He's going to present the technology presentation for this fiscal year. This is Mike's first budget presentation, right?
I was just going to say the
Yep,
same
so
thing.
let's be
This is
kind
my
and gentle.
first-
Oh, no, let the hazing begin. Oh, I can't wait.
As director, thank you. In all
So,
seriousness,
Mike, walk me through your architectural taxonomy.
74 slides speaking to that. I'm really glad you brought it up. So 95.
That was the perfect answer,
So-
actually.
No, in all seriousness, though, thank you for taking a chance with me. And I can't underscore the privilege it is for me to work here. I mean, I've been in education. This is year 4 for me in Pembroke, year 25, I think, in education. And I've seen a lot, and it means a lot that I'm here with you in service to the kids that we're all here for, too. So thank you.
That was kind. Thank you.
I'd like to start just as a general overview with some historical information about the things that we've done here in Pembroke with our technological infrastructure, but also some historical context on technology in general. Because when someone kind of comes in and takes the lead, it makes sense for them to look at how things are running and make some adjustments. So with all of that in mind, there's some historical things that sort of directed how we took a look at what we're asking for. So we'll look at some changes in the technological landscape in context, and we'll update everything on the fiscal year 2025 goals. We'll take a look at the fiscal year 2026, and of course, some of those budget priorities. Gwen and I were talking before everyone came in, and it was nice how the two of us are I think, very much in line with understanding the tenor of budgets and how there's an ebb and flow maybe from year to year on how things roll out. And although I've heard Mrs. Obi say a number of times everything comes out of the same pot, but we're still, I think, very much in line with understanding and being respectful of what we're asking for. So, that said, we're in a time of exponential growth in technology. So what do we mean? When we look at trends, right, we have a linear trend that runs along the bottom, and that moves in steps, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can see that there's some growth if we look to the very bottom here, not a whole lot. And then an exponential trend is different, right? Now we're working in exponents of 10, 100,000. And we can see that there's an incredible divergence here. So if I were to take 10 linear steps from here, I'd probably end up with Mrs. Vandermolen. But if I were to take 10 exponential steps from here, I'd probably end up somewhere close to Plymouth. So what does that mean for us here? Well, schools tend to move on a linear path. But technology is different, especially in these last 5 years. There's been an explosion of technology where you can see that there's what we'd call the knee of the curve here in that exponential growth. And we have to figure out how to address this gap, because it's a big one. These slides look a little silly, but it sort of puts into context where we're coming from. So in 1956, that black and white photo was memory for a computer. And if you had a forklift and a 747 and some strong friends, you could get 5 megabytes of memory for $120,000. We jump forward a few decades, but not many decades, 2005. Now we have 128 megabytes for a fraction of that price at $99. 2014, 128 gigabytes, right? So that's even more. And you can sort of see Moore's law in action, where that's the notion of technology where things will get more capable and smaller simultaneously. I think he said that he was the person that started microchipping. And it was the notion that things could be 2 times as efficient and fast every 2 years. It doesn't apply anymore, especially with AI in the picture. Now we're just in the stratosphere. And as a point of my own reference, I could get 128 gigs on an SD card for $11 overnight, compared to that.
We don't pay for Prime in the district.
We're not the only ones that notice this. There are some bad guys out there. And this is from the Department of Homeland Security Threat Assessment from 2024. It came out last September. I realized that the bullet point I'm referencing, the last one, is too small to see, so sort of zoomed in. It says, in recent years, ransomware incidents have become increasingly prevalent among U.S. state, local, tribal, and territorial governments and critical infrastructure entities, disrupting services. K-12 school districts have seen a near constant ransomware target due to school systems' IT budget constraints and lack of dedicated resources, as well as ransomware actors' successes at extracting payment from some schools that are required to function within certain dates and hours. This is a very real threat, and it's a full-time job. They're constant. They're constant. It's a full-time job in just hours of time pulling all of those emails back, because they're coming in just at a rate that is almost impossible to keep up with. So really, it's a shift in our paradigm of practice, which I'll speak to in a few slides from here, that helps with it. But this is what's happening. So in 2025, there's a notion of centrality to Titan Tech. So before, we would think of it just as Wi-Fi, but really we're talking about communications and phone. We're talking about scheduling conferences, security cameras, the huddle cameras that we watch the football practices and games on, the point of service areas in the cafeteria where the kids pay for their food, all of the data management, everything's stored, personally identifiable information that's stored safely and securely here, network management, and there's the component of instructional technology as well, the teaching and learning component, all of which sort of orbits the technology department at its center. So this is what made me take a really hard look at where we are and think about where we're going, and directed all of us towards the guiding principles of what the vision is for the technology. And at its nucleus, no matter what, everything we do, kids first. There's a ubiquity to the technology department where, even in HVAC, when we're down, everybody's too hot or too cold because the computer can't be adjusted to make this temperature. So even in terms of that infrastructure component of technology, the kids are first. I'd like to think that we have a realistic outlook about what's happening with all of this, and full transparency of our practices. Not that it wasn't before, but we're talking about kids' data in a lot of ways here, and how is that being handled, and what are we doing to protect that? And what happens when the organizations that we rely on to protect their kids' data are breached themselves? I want to be respectful to our funding resources. There's a little bit of uncertainty with regard to how things are going to roll out for funding from the federal components. But I know the most reliable are the people that we have here in Pembroke. And the way I say that is in 2 parts. One I'd call the stakeholders, and those are families with kids in our school system. And the other I look at as investors. Those are the people who are citizens, residents here, that may not have kids, but they're putting their tax dollars into this. And I want to make sure that they have a really solid return on their investment as well. And finally, I'd like to shift us away from that linear path more towards an exponential outlook. Pembroke's a hockey community, right? So if I say I want to skate to where the puck is headed, I think everyone will understand what I mean by that. And develop I'm not into gadgets or anything like that. It's those transferable skills that we're using now that will apply to those things that don't exist yet, but are imminent and that are coming. So this is what guides us. And it leads us to those goals and expected outcomes. We will strengthen our cybersecurity posture. It's a heavy lift, but we're on the path towards doing it. We're going to increase our department agility through managed services, which I speak to a little bit more in depth later on. Device equity and connectivity ubiquity is paramount, making sure that our connectivity is as unnoticed as the lights turning on when you walk into a room. We'll continue with our best practices of professional learning, the replacement cycles for the devices, and support for all of those assessments that we do. More than 100 ed tech softwares that we run and work with our kids, K through 12, for all of the faculty, the staff, MCAS, SAT, PSAT, all of the acronyms. Teachers love acronyms. Biliteracy online exams. We have 3,600 end users. An end user is the person using it, right? So we'll be supporting them. The phone system, security cameras and fobs, 250 audio-visual devices like our touch panel here, and of course the PPS intranet. Intranet are those things that run on our network that people don't necessarily touch. Security cameras, key fobs, HVAC controls. There's more. It's on slide 94. So looking at how we've been doing so far, 24, 25, there have been some great successes. We have an awesome student innovation help desk. They're semester-long courses. Right now, there are 15 kids across 5 blocks. There's someone manning the desk at all times. They're learning from me. Ms. Leeper, our digital learning specialist, is helping out, and of course, Mrs. Murphy, the librarian at the high school, is supporting them as well. They're doing great work. They have, since the beginning of the year, this looks like hyperbole, but I got the machines to back it up. They have repaired and recirculated 200 Chromebooks by themselves. So I sort of put them on the path towards it, and they've Frankensteined a bunch of these things and put them back into, as loaners for them. Kids or teachers forget their device, we can loan those out to them. 3D printing is still alive and well. Along with the design of those K through 12, we've expanded the Project Lead the Way curriculum at the middle school and the high school. And we have the T-Mobile Project 10 Million program, which provides wireless internet to families that need it. There have been a lot of staff successes as well. Our digital learning specialist is simply remarkable. She's an 18-year veteran of this district and a master educator, and has this way about her that disarms people who may have convinced themselves that they're not good at technology, but also lifts up the people that know that they're great at it and finds everyone in between and does the same. She's super intelligent and hilarious and has filled that gap at the middle and the high school where maybe I couldn't reach when I was in that position last year and the year before.
Naomi, say hi.
You might need to take a bow by the time this is done.
I couldn't be more grateful to work with her.
Please say more.
We've centralized the technology department and restructured a few things. Our network manager is no longer a free agent. He's our umbrella now. And that provides us with more agility to get to the things that we need to do. We've restructured the building-based lead technology teachers as well, for a number of reasons. It's a stipended position, one in each building, and they're classroom teachers. Their primary role is to be a classroom teacher, and they were doing a ton of technological support on the side of that too, and it wasn't sustainable for them. So we restructured things, and in the process of doing that, we're saving the district $8,000 a year too. More importantly, they're there to service and work with the kids and support our teachers in their work with the kids as well. Without them, we would have not been able to adjust our practices. We recently rolled out multi-factor authentication on our Google accounts to add a second lock to the door, so to speak, because these ransomware and cyber attacks are constant. Everyone will fall for them at some point. Mm-hmm. Everyone will fall for them at some point. So it was a matter of time, and this is one more step that we can work toward to prevent that. They're offering training and support for their teachers, as I mentioned. They're presenting at conferences to standing room only breakout sessions, and their contributions to the weekly tech tips make them a little bit more transparent and visible as well. We have state and regional technology leadership too. People know Titan Tech statewide. We have an awesome reputation of innovation and sort of those moonshot ideas that other people, I won't say copy, but sort of
Borrow.
pull from it, right? Because great artists,
That's right.
good artists borrow, great artists steal, right? So there's that. We've had a number of people who've been featured speakers at conferences speaking to AI, assistive technology. There's a photo of Mrs. Lazarus presenting about digital arts up at the top there. I have to shout out to Taryn Lang, the new business teacher, who absolutely owned the room at our last conference. It was her command of just presentation skills was amazing and inspiring, and I learned a lot from her that day. So we've had those featured speakers, and leadership of a regional assistive technology special interest group. So I saw a need to build something with assistive technology because there were a lot of questions about it, and it started small, and now we have members as far as Maine in New York that come and meet once a month and we discuss best practices and ways to help those kids complete tasks which may be difficult or impossible otherwise. Our end user hardware as it exists is, we've installed a new visual arts computer lab at the high school. There's a new computer science lab at the high school as well. Replacement of 1,000 Chromebooks district-wide using electronic connectivity funds, ECF, in the past. That's no longer an option anymore. That's phased out, but we hit it at the sweet spot right at the end, which was great. Our infrastructure is growing as well. There are continued upgrades to our wireless internet with larger and better access points. We worked with E-Rate to get those, so we get a 40% discount on that. We've made upgrades to our firewall and threat protection. The ones we chose most recently are future ready, so we don't have to really look at those until I think somewhere between 2027 and 2030. And they have redundancies too. And what that simply means is that there's more than one, so if the first one breaks down, the next one kicks in straight away. We don't lose any service. Generally speaking, when we've had outages before, it's been because of a problem with the firewall and not having a backup or electricity, essentially, which is our next one. We've backed up emergency power supplies. They're called uninterruptible power supplies. It's basically a cool word for a fancy battery. And those have redundancies too. I'm all about being redundant. Was that weird? We have moved North Pembroke, Bryanville, and Hobbamock to the cloud. And it's been great, actually. I take it as a compliment when I'm in administrative meetings and someone I look up to says this has been the best year that we've had in probably ever in terms of connectivity stability, which is great.
Awesome.
And the ones that we have taken from here, I moved to the high school into those areas that have been traditionally dead spots. So there's better connectivity there now as well with some of the ones that we had here. We had a cybersecurity assessment through a company called Pembroke Massachusetts, which was scary, humbling, and enlightening all at the same time. It identified those areas of strength and areas where we need to grow. And it's directed us towards modernizing our practices because the things that we did in 2005 don't work anymore. And we have to really sort of build things up. One of the things of which I'm most proud is our in-house development of a dedicated network for Chromebook users. So there were problems with stable connectivity for the kids and the paraprofessionals who use Chromebooks, as well as printing. And it was about to be outsourced to a third party for $2,000 a year, and then we just sort of use the resources we have here to create our own. And it's been working great. So that's another $2,000 a year in savings we had by using the expertise that we have here in-house. And finally, an inventory system of our assets. It doesn't sound like much, but for me it's huge because we have a lot of devices and I tend to be willy-nilly about throwing them out. So this will keep track of that. And from a security standpoint, we'll also know who patient 0 is. That's what we call the person that clicks that link. We'll be able to trace it back, isolate it, and quarantine and destroy it. Our staffing is small but mighty, which is as much an asset for agility, as it can be a liability sometimes. So there's me as the director. We have our data software manager, Aaron Tinker. We have one network manager, James Ulysses. We have a master media technician, Ken Krutz. And of course, I mentioned Naomi earlier as a digital learning specialist, all of whom have been here between 18 and 20 years in total. I mean, they're at the top of their game. We've restructured and have 4 of the building-based lead tech teachers, Sarah McNulty at Bryanttville, Mindy Murphy at Hoggelmock, Katie Ruggiero at the middle school, and Christine Murphy at the high school. And we have one incoming senior who's going to work on the senior project in the spring. He's looking at cybersecurity, probably because I rant around all day and maybe I can help with that. So we're grateful for that. This is the district analysis review tool, looking at some nearby places that are sort of comparable to Pembroke in the department size that they have in their tech area. So, you know, if we were to put this into a graphic, we're sort of in that, I'd like to be a little bit more to the right on that bell curve. We're sort of falling in here. But I'm not going to ask for anybody new. I don't think this is the time to do that right now. Historical work tickets, you know, when we're looking across that first column, these are the help desk tickets that come in for support. I've done so far, well, as of February 1st, 188. And then, you know, there's a lift by everybody. I've done a lot of work with Naomi to insulate her from the tech break fix thing, because her job is a teacher coach. And frankly, a mistake I made when I took the position was being too helpful to the point where people mistook me, not being, you know, the technology specialist, but being a media tech, which it happened that I knew how to do both. It happened that I needed to be done, but we want to make sure that everyone has their spot. So, you know, our network manager is at 38 tickets that he's completed, and our media tech is up to 506. It's February. So he's going for the record. Just another graphic of that exponential growth, you know, in the last 5 years. You know, the light blue indicates how many devices we had, you know, compared to where we are now, and the dark blue. So there's a jump, and it's not going anywhere. So that brings us to what we have going on now in terms of our recurring costs. There's some really solid work being done by our tech interns. That's, you know, they're gaining a very valuable skill that they could leave high school understanding what the industry standard of repairs are for laptops and for Chromebooks. And it doesn't cost us much at all. Software licensing and support for instructional and non-instructional, you know, we're at the $490,000 mark. There is a portion of internet that we pay. We pay 60% of the total. E-rate does 40% of that. Supplies and materials are sort of those miscellaneous things. A projector bulb will go, or someone breaks their laptop, that sort of falls out of that pot. And then we have our subtotal of $527,380 at the bottom there. Looking towards what we're going to need, things are starting to age out for our devices. So at the high school and at the middle school, the devices are 4 years old and slowing down, so we'll need to refresh those. The paraprofessional Chromebooks, those are aging out as well. The software lasts a long time, but it doesn't do a lot of good when the space bar falls off. So we need to sort of pick those up a little bit too. The business lab desktops are 6 years old, and they're desktops. And the replacement of student Chromebooks, this one's new, so we lost some federal funding just because the time, it sort of timed out, but we're looking to renew Chromebooks on a replacement cycle for grades 2, 6, and 9, which is a new fee. I don't feel that a second grader's introduction to computers should be with troubleshooting, which is why those are very targeted at those transition years. So grade 2, they're moving from an iPad to a Chromebook. Grade 6, you know, they're moving into middle school just afterwards, so we replace them at that point, and then grade 9 from middle school to high school. Network and equipment needs, backup solutions are critical. You know, when the inevitable happens and there needs to be some disaster recovery, we need a solution to make sure that we have what we need for that. AP stands for access points. If you look towards the American flag on the ceiling, there's that little glowing white light on the ceiling. That's what's providing the Wi-Fi for all of our rooms, so those need some replacing at the high school and coming at the middle school too. That's E-ratable, so there'll be a discount that we receive from that as well. And this is sort of new. This
Mike,
is,
can I just ask you a question?
Yes, please.
To go back to that
Yeah.
network equipment piece. And I was looking for the managed services piece, I didn't see it. Is there phishing software that is built in through the managed services provider, or
It's a great question.
How is the phishing piece working?
So, yes.
Because it's your biggest vulnerability.
It's one of them for sure, yeah. It's a great question that leads me to my next slide. So managed services
Perfect.
is outsourcing the day-to-day management of all of the network things that essentially happen behind the scenes. So it's 24/7 monitoring.
Mhm.
So should something happen overnight where we lose power, or there's a DDoS attack, which means that a computer designed to destroy other computers attacks one of ours and breaks through. So there's protection for those things through managed services. They work with our team. So they're sort of like the guy in the chair from the spy movies, run down the hall and take a right. He's got that earpiece in. They'll let us know when something's going on and work with our people here on the ground so that Mr. Ulysses can go in and make the changes that he needs to do. It works with the current equipment. It prevents downtime. It's a predictable cost, and it's E-ratable, and it's scalable. So on lean years, we can pull things back a little bit. We can build things up when we're able to do that too. And it's future ready. So those phishing attempts and all of the scams are getting far more advanced. And this sort of keeps up with all of those things as well. And it's in town already. Some of our other town organizations are using it. The police department and the fire department use something similar too. So that's where we are. The district-wide tech software and programs, we're asking to kind of hold on to. Managed services is something new, but I think it's critical and it's going to help us a lot, especially where it's a fraction of the cost of getting a network administrator in addition to Mr. Ulysses. And if there's a case of turnaround, if we get sort of a level 1 person who's fresh out of college, I wouldn't want this to be a stepping stone for something bigger, because that kind of leaves us in a tricky position. Managed services will have consistency across the board that way. Our device replacement cycle will continue on, as well as our network equipment replacement.
For whatever it's worth, I'm just going to give you a big plug. $50,000 for the size of our network, the number of end users, the number of devices and equipment, everything else is cheap.
Yeah.
And I mean, really, really cheap.
I think it's a creative solution to a complicated problem.
I agree.
And
And for the other thing, most organizations are going this path because it is so expensive to actually have these resources in-house. In cybersecurity resources in the past 5 years, talk about an exponential curve, right, on cost. So that's a great deal if you actually have what you need.
And when I speak to skating to where the puck is headed, this is
100%.
This is it. So there are some future considerations. Again, looking at where things are headed, we're talking about fiscal year 27 up to 2030, but we're going to need some replacement of other things. I will be asking for more people at some point, not in the near future. But we're set for a little while with the way things are headed right now. So we'll be replacing the access points for cloud Wi-Fi at the middle school. We don't want things to slow down too much. The current the controllers are the things that make everything go. Those are nearing the end of their life, so that'll have to be addressed in the next couple of years. And then, of course, our firewall replacement. We're good on that till about the year 2030, if things work well. And that, again, that was one of those looking forward sort of situations. And again, much of this is discounted through the E-rate program, too. So that's where we are. Thank you.
Is the E-rate program new?
No, it's been around for a while. I do know that there's some question it's a federally funded program,
Yeah.
so I'm not really sure where things are going to land
Yeah.
as far as that goes.
Yeah.
And if and when that happens, we'll just come up with a plan B. But it's,
C and D.
if we need to, right? Because that's what we do. We can do hard things.
Yeah. Like the cyber piece and the cyber protections, if you actually get hit with a ransomware and a cyber event, the downtime can be months, and it can cost, I'm not exaggerating when I say this, millions of dollars. The amount of things that you have to do, and I get insurance kicks in and what have you, but your insurance rates actually can get more favorable the more of this you have and the more protections too. So I absolutely think where you're heading, and to your point, Skate, to where the puck is headed, is 100% the right thing to do.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's our kids. It's the data that we store about our kids that's the most vulnerable, and we need to protect that. And this is one way of doing that. So,
Any other questions?
I just had a quick question. Thank you so much for that. That was really helpful.
Thank you.
Just wondering, I know you mentioned that police and fire have some of these programs.
Mhm.
I'm just wondering, is there a way to kind of get any savings if we use the same provider, or is that something that we did look at later?
we can find out.
Yeah, okay.
You definitely have more leverage at that
Yeah.
point. Happy to help you negotiate if you
Yeah.
need
Okay.
to, but yeah, seriously, yeah.
Cool.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, and
And I just want to say thank you for how, like, I'm using my fourth grader's Chromebook here. And so in the past, like, if something stopped working and I sent the email and she came home with a, repaired and or different one. So, it's, you guys do great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
I will say the Titan Help Desk did work when there's one day I couldn't.
The Genius Bar.
Most of the time, it's turn it off and turn it on. I can't fool anybody.
Right?
He's like, "You plug
We
it
give
in."
it a
I was
fancy
like,
name.
"No."
Right?
They're great guys up there, too.
I just want to say too, first of all, it was a great first presentation. Loved
Thank
it.
you.
So, and then I really appreciate the way you always trying to find savings. Like I noticed that you pointed out where you could rearrange things and find savings, and that was really awesome.
Thank you for
So
noticing
Thanks
that.
for doing that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You guys do not have to stay.
Okay.
Right, so-
Well, they have early mornings. I appreciate that this was a little bit of a later start than normal, so thank you.
Yeah,
guys.
thank you.
Really, thank you so much.
Very
Thank you very
We'll
much.
make sure to stay logged into your account and do some.
I'm going to come back and check tonight.
He's shutting it off in the car, just so you know.
Shut off the entire network.
I would.
So next up is subcommittee and liaison updates. So in your packet for policy subcommittee, you have for consideration of second reading approval, policy IKF, credit status and graduation requirements. So we took this as a first read at your first reading in February, and it just updates the language in the policy manual to reflect the changes that you all approved as part of our program of studies, as far as the world languages, the visual and performing arts requirement, and really cleaning up some of the language that was in there before in regards to what students can and should take in order to meet our requirements, and really being explicit that you do have to take math every single year. Taking 2 years of math does not equate to the 4-year requirement.
I actually have some questions on this. if I can
Great,
go
Yeah,
sure.
go ahead, yeah,
I wrote
absolutely.
a lot down. So,
There's a lot there, Ryan, my goodness.
So I wanted to start with the 3 years of history, including 1 year of US2, or A-push, I'll call it. US1 is still a requirement, correct?
So
Or
because
no?
we've started with the AP World History offering for students, that covers a lot of what's covered in US History 1, so you can take either one.
And that removes the world history as well? Or
That counts for World History too.
okay. So if a student was not taking AP World, would they still?
They would take US 1 and US 2. World History, US 1, US 2.
All right, that's
Right,
my
that makes
major thing.
sense.
So I
Right.
was like, oh, so just the second half, or how does that work? Then I want to clarify, when it says biology and chem or physics, would that mean like you could take physics as a sophomore?
The physics aligns with your math, so you have to be
Yes.
taking have finished Algebra 2 in order to take physics. So
That-
depending on
yeah.
where you are in the math continuum, you could definitely take it as a sophomore. But before, the language just said you had to take biology and chemistry or physics, not either chemistry or physics. So it was a little bit misleading to students.
Okay, because that's what I was, because I took chemistry and physics, and I was gonna say, for the first half, I could have not have done physics where I was in Algebra 2, and then also you totally need chemistry when it comes to physics.
Yep.
And looking at thermodynamics. And stuff. Okay. That's all I know.
Is that it?
Because, yeah, I answered a lot of them in my head.
That's great.
Good question.
Thank you.
You all are taking that for a second read, hopefully? in a
So
second.
there, Patrick pointed out, we need to edit the top
Yep,
paragraph.
yep.
To take out whatever the language.
That says MCAS, yep.
Yeah, so I don't know if it's worth linking to the program of studies on that, or.
I mean, I think you can
Or
just
just put-
take out and successfully pass the MCAS. It just must meet all graduation requirements.
As, and then as
Yep.
specified in the program of studies?
Well, all the graduation
Yeah,
requirements are
you don't
specified
have to
here.
Well,
specify it.
We'll edit that too.
But it says, you know, or must meet all graduations and competency determination?
So competency determination is passing 10th grade math and English, so that is part of it. You have to pass 4 years of math and 4 years of English.
Okay, so we don't have to spell that out
No.
in this. Okay, so just cross that. So-
Cross out, so after, it would just
Okay.
say Pembroke High School diploma students must meet all graduation requirements, and cross out.
I was
your
going to
and.
vote for it the way it
No.
was. I was pretty happy with the way it was, just to be clear. But I did point it out to be fair.
I think we
Thank you,
already
Patrick.
said you don't have the numbers for that.
Well, I could have not said anything, but that would have been disingenuous. Okay, so can I get a motion to accept for both second reading and approval policy IKF graduation requirements as amended?
So moved.
Second.
So motion by Sue, seconded by Katrina. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I oppose. Abstained? So it's 3-1, Natalie.
Next up is the Vocational Planning Committee. So the Vocational Planning Committee did meet right before February break to talk a little bit about our timeline and what it looks like moving forward. At this point, we are on path to be presenting to the school committee at one of the later March meetings, the numbers associated with joining South Shore Tech from a tax perspective, from a potential debt exclusion override, as well as an operational override perspective. So we'd be presenting that in March. The timeline that we have in front of us is to present to the school committee in March, allowing us several months to do some community education in regards to that issue, and going to the fall town meeting in October for the town to vote to, two-part vote to join and then to pay for joining South Shore Tech. What that does is it aligns us to get approval from the member towns at the spring of 2026 fall spring town meetings in all of those member towns. I know there's some conversation about when kids would go for the first time. Is it 27? Is it 28, 29? All of those are still options that are on the table. We do need to kind of package our admission to South Shore Tech in the way that makes the most sense for Pembroke as a community, as well as for the 10 member communities to want to accept us. So there is still potential for kids to be going in the fall of 27, or starting in the fall of 28, or starting in the fall of 29. That is not decided yet. The only timeline that is decided is that we're going to the fall town meeting, October of 2025, for approval to move forward with joining.
Is it a ballot vote as well?
It is a ballot.
Because of the,
The overrides, but I think, I mean, I haven't actually seen any numbers yet, but you would have a debt exclusion override, and then you would have to have an operational override just to fund the tuition.
pay the tuition.
Yeah.
and that would, so would that be a special election then?
So.
It'll be spring
no,
meeting, right?
So
Or
it's-
So
spring,
you're going to
It
vote
would be
to
fall.
join in the
Yes.
fall, but the debt exclusion piece of it, I would assume you would not do until the spring after you've been invited to join, right? So it's a contingency.
So if the member towns accept us, then we'd have a ballot vote on debt exclusion and operational override.
Which is different than the way Marshfield did it, right?
Right, so Marshfield just voted to join without the commitment to pay for it.
Because I'm just concerned, like, with the budget right now, how much it costs to do a special election, and if the town's not, like, do they know, there would need to be a special election if we were requesting everything in the fall?
Well, we have an election in the spring anyway.
No, I
Oh,
know,
yeah,
but
yeah,
that's what I'm
okay.
saying,
All
like,
right,
if this was,
got it.
if it was gonna be a ballot on the fall, the town would have to plan.
Yeah, I don't know that, I mean, just candidly, I don't know that the expense of a special election for the town is going to make or break this component to it. I think figuring out sort of and if we vote in the fall, right, to move forward, and then we are accepted in the Springtown meeting votes, of the various towns and communities, right? We could have ready, I would think, on that spring town meeting, the ballot questions, right? That would say, either contingent on the acceptance of, we move
That's what
X
the
amount of
fall would
dollars.
say.
The spring could say that. Because the spring, you're being invited in by the member towns, I think. I mean,
We'll
again,
go
that's
through
gotta
all
be
those
vetted out.
logistics when we present it in March.
Okay.
Yep.
But I do think it's, the vocational committee wants to put forward and should put forward their strongest case.
Well,
right?
that's why I just want to make sure that we have what we need at whichever town meeting enough.
Yep, we'll
that-
present all of that
we
as part
know
of the
what-
package. Yep.
What's coming and what.
The idea is
that
we'll
looks
have
like.
lots of educational sessions in the meantime for the community so they know what we're voting on in the fall.
Which is critical.
Yeah.
And the school committee can put forth the warrant article.
We can.
Yes.
It would be appropriate.
The last subcommittee met last Friday?
Right.
Friday? Oh, that's all. Budget subcommittee met last Friday just to take a look at the presentation that Town Manager Bill Chenard had shared at an earlier select board meeting in February to talk a little bit about the difference between our level service budget that we presented and the number that the town was carrying. There's about a $905,000 difference between those two numbers. Budget sub talks a little bit about the strategy on closing that gap, as well as a little bit more of an updated timeline as far as meetings. So we are, I think, in a place where we need to talk about potentially adding a third meeting in March so that we can get through all of the budget pieces. in
And we are
that timeline.
targeting March
25th.
is the 25th. So if you guys could just make sure that you can be here on March 25th, just to make sure that that can happen.
Okay.
I think that would be really important.
Can the information presented at budget sub be shared with me? Was there?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there was the only papers that were shared were the town manager's presentations and a slide from our
But
maintenance
and it was
staff.
recorded?
Yep.
Can I get the recording? I want to hear what was said. Thank you.
So March 25th, a month from today, would be the third meeting that we'll have in March, just to get through it all. At 6:30.
Yep, so the last item on the agenda is future meeting dates and topics,
Yeah.
so that lends itself nicely to that.
Yeah, so.
So 4/18 and 25.
Yes.
3, 4, 3.
3, 4, 3, 18, and 325. So I've asked the superintendent to make a little bit of a shift to our next meeting on 3, 4, and we're gonna just pause on a couple of the budget meetings, and instead we're gonna use the time. We do have the state reps coming to talk to us. As far as I know, they're confirmed.
Yeah, so I did
But-
check with David earlier today. He's confirmed with Sweezy and Fernandez and was just waiting to hear back from Lenatra.
Okay. So we will have our state senator, one of our state representatives, hopefully the second state representative at that meeting. But I've also asked the superintendent to prepare and to put together timelines, information, factual information around mold. This has been an ongoing thing. Heard a lot about it. There's a lot of information that has been put out there, and I think on behalf of both the committee and to both the taxpayer and the town, I have asked the superintendent to put together a timeline going back 3 years to when this started, everything that has happened, all of the remediation that has taken place, the agreements that have been made, and those will be presented. This is going to be a presentation. It will not be a debate. I will leave about 10 minutes for comment at the end of the presentation. The presentation will be time-boxed, and that will also be on the agenda. But that, I think it's important. I think it's important that we do it for the community, and that we clear up a lot of things that are out there in the community. It's going to be very fact-based.
Can people email questions ahead of time?
Oh, yes. So if there are specific questions that either you at home have or folks in the audience have that you want to try to make sure that they get addressed, please email them to the school committee mailbox ahead of time. We'll review them, and to the extent possible, we'll answer the questions in the course of the presentation, which will actually even save time more so than for questions or comments at the end. I do want the comments to be, in the questions, to be focused on parents and parent comments and concerns and sort of those types of things, if there are any at the end of the conversation. So yes, we definitely can do that.
And the email for school committee is scinfo@pembrokek12.org. That's also on the website, but just throwing it out there.
And then all the materials that are presented next Tuesday will be put up on the tips part of our website, just to make sure that that can be referenced in folks, if they can't see either the recording or they're not here to actually see the presentation, they have the ability to review the materials. Anything else that you guys want to do? March is already pretty packed, but anything else that you guys want to do throughout the month of March?
I know we're going to be meeting, as policy said, we have to find the date, just because we had to reschedule, or it was postponed.
Yeah, I want to apologize for that. I had
Oh.
6 children and.
That's not an apology-worthy
1 to 3 children home at
situation.
any one point that week, so.
You can't, yeah, we've been, sickness has been real, so it's not you, but we can reschedule that.
And just for clarification, the plan is to present the vocational piece at the 3:25 meeting, just in case folks
Yes.
are planning on coming.
Yes.
School calendar for next year, can that be at some point for?
You usually get that as a first read in April, but it doesn't change much year to year,
No, I
Allison,
know.
so I'm happy to
I
bring it
know.
as a first read next Tuesday if you'd like.
Well, I think, I don't know.
Yep, that's fine. Yep.
For planning
I can put it
purposes,
on for
even though
next
it's
Tuesday as
the
a first
same.
read. Yep.
Okay, so anything else that you guys have for regular session? So we do need to enter executive session pursuant to Chapter 38, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy related to collective bargaining and a legal matter, as an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the legal position of the school committee as declared by the chair. Can I get that motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Allison, seconded by Sue.
Katrina.
Sorry.
Either
By Katrina, thank you. See, I do want to give you one. So motion by Katrina, seconded by Sue, by roll call vote. Katrina?
Yes.
Allison?
Yes.
Sue?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. So we are in executive session.